and the in between. Today, with me, I have an amazing guest and a friend of mine who is going to introduce herself in a minute as we dive into what it means to open up to love and how that impacts you in your life. Karen, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited that we get to do this. So,
I'm
would you
too. Thank
please
you.
introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Karen Taylor, and I am a grief transformation coach. And so I help women rediscover themselves when everything around them has changed. My journey into grief and this work started about 6 years ago when I got a phone call from my brother-in-law that changed my entire world. And he let me know that there had been a fire at their home and my sister didn't make it. And that began a very long, deep journey into understanding loss, love, and just who we are after, experiencing the most devastating pain of our lives.
Oh, that's incredible. I got goosebumps as you shared this because that is such a big thing that can happen in your life, losing a loved one, and especially in what was happening, because we can't control things that are happening, right? And so being left with that sense of grief can be so debilitating and so hard. So, as you have been kind of navigating to through your life, and as you have moved through this, what was the one thing that really kind of kept you going?
Yeah, I think so. The surprising thing about several surprises as I started to navigate this grief journey, one, just how illiterate our grief or how illiterate our society is as it relates to grief was kind of the first major aha that I had. We've all been kind of brought up that there's this model of grief that you go through, and there's 5 stages. And, I started that work and I got through the fifth stage. I'm like, this doesn't feel at all like what I'm going through. This doesn't mirror at all the reality of my experience. And so I realized that that was a very outdated model, revolutionary for its time, but it was actually never designed for people that were grieving. It was designed for people that were terminally ill. And so it became pretty clear to me pretty quickly how big the gap was as it relates to grief, and that I was supposed to learn what I learned so that I could take that forward and share it with others. But I think the bigger learning that I had was that grief is more than just learning to live with the pain of a loss. It's learning who you are, like rediscovering who you are, because grief changes you. It changes your relationships. It could change, your career path. You have to learn who you are and how to exist in a world without, that person or that thing, a pet even. We have so many different types of losses that are surrounding us every day. And so it was really about knowing myself and understanding what I really, who was I? What did I want in this world? What kind of person did I want to be? What kind of relationships did I want to have in my life? What was my purpose? Like, it just took me down this very deep path to know myself on the deepest levels. For the first time at that time, I was 49. Um, so I was rediscovering myself and learning how to move forward in a completely different way.
Well, I'm sure you've learned a lot through that. Before we dive into that, I would love to know, how did love play into this for you?
So it began by, so I guess I'll step back and say, through my life, I had been pretty, I've had success, in my career, success in, just a lot of different areas of my life. But the one area that I always struggled with was relationships. And so before my sister's death, I had a pretty significant breakup that really impacted me. I thought this was somebody that, I was going to be with. And so I took it pretty hard. And then with my sister's death, I was kind of brought to my knees. And And I remember saying to the universe, if you help me understand why all this is happening, I will carry the message forward. And so, as it relates to love, it really opened the door for me to step through and learn how to love myself first. And that, it's forced change. I would not have stepped through that door had I not been brought down by the grief and the loss. And I think grief opens us door to transformation that not many other experiences in our life present. And so if you're ready, if you're willing to walk through it, it can be a very transformative experience. And so it started with me loving myself. And I realized that that had not occurred at that point yet in my life. And by understanding who I was, learning to love all parts of me, I was then able to go out into the world and say, I deserve this kind of relationship. I'm no longer settling for these types of relationships. I'm not taking breadcrumbs from anybody anymore. I'm not being, second fiddle. Like, I'm worthy, I am enough, and I deserve a love that matches how I feel about myself. And that would have never happened before.
Yeah,
And so it completely changed my love for myself, which then allowed me to attract a love that matched that.
that's incredible. It's through these hard times that we really tend to kind of um, bring ourselves back to look in on the inside, right? Inward. And sometimes it may take such a drastic change in your life to be able to shift you. Because what I have found to be true is, you know, you're kind of 1 foot out, 1 foot in when you try to make this change, but it is a way of that, you know, gigantic impact that really pushes you. Like you need that force somehow, whether you like it or not, you're going to be forced out. And so it just seems to be the same way for you as you share, because it would not have gotten you to the point where you had to really look within and figure things out. Like why am I the way I am? And what is it that I'm discovering in this transition? And so with that being said, I'd love to know, what is your definition of love?
Ooh. I think the first word that came to mind was acceptance. Um, Again, because it all starts with you, like you said. I mean, everything that's inside of us is what's projected externally. And so if we ever have something going on in our external reality that, we're not happy with, it's not where we want to be, the quickest and easiest way to change that is to go inward and understand, what stories, what beliefs do you have about yourself? Because that's what you're attracting. We're always attracting who we are.
Mhm.
Our identity is so crucial to actually attracting in the things that we want, because our mind will work tirelessly to match the experiences that align with who we think we are. So, and it doesn't care one way or the other. It's just taking orders. So if we want to change that, we have to change from within first. So the first thing I thought of was acceptance. And again, acceptance of yourself completely, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then as it relates to, love with, another person, I also think it's acceptance, and it's openness and consideration. Like
Mhm.
those are kind of the words that I think of, not trying to change the other person,
Mhm.
accepting, who this person is, but being open-minded enough to take in another person's perspective and feedback, and just to consider them. I think that's such a big part of a loving relationship, is knowing that that other person sees you and thinks about you and considers you as they make decisions. That's been a big change in my current relationship that I didn't have before.
That's amazing. Yes, I mean, when you think about, having someone in your life, you don't want to change them. You don't want to look at flaws, right? Or you want to accept the flaws. And what I like to see is that they have an ambition to want to change in a way, right? To be better, to be healthier, to be more understanding. But a lot of times is when you try to change someone, that's where the friction happens, it seems, right? So just as we accept, to your point, ourselves, the good, bad, and the ugly, I feel that people have a hard time accepting the other person the same exact way. And now, this is not to say, if you're in an abusive relationship, toxic relationship, that's a whole another ball game. We're
Yeah,
talking.
absolutely. That doesn't fall in the normal definition, right?
Absolutely. That's a
Yeah,
whole another
yeah,
shell, right? But we're talking about healthy partners who have the good side and the bad side, because we all have that. It's a duality
absolutely.
that's within us. And, it's on those days where you are not so great that someone loves you, right? And gives you that extra compassion and extra love. And I found that's
Hmm.
true for me. I mean, I've been with my husband going on nearly 20 years now. And, he has seen every single side of myself. He has seen me go through so many transitions in my life as well. And, some he has come with, others not so much. We're still in the transition in terms of him really getting what it is that I view life as, but it's also this change in perspectives, or hearing what he has to say and taking that into sort of, okay, let me just mull on it, like mull over it, because that's what it means to be in a relationship, because we're in a sort of um, synergistic connection, right, that we're trying to build, but we are two different humans,
Right. Right. With
right?
different backgrounds, different belief systems, different upbringings,
Absolutely.
different everything.
Absolutely. So, what would you say was the difference between you and your fiance?
Oh gosh, we're very different. He's a
Mhm.
math professor and I am a coach that, is all into the woo-woo spirituality and he's into the hardcore black and white facts of mathematics.
Yeah.
So the universe really, I don't know how they knew that we both needed each other, but that's what it was. We are very much different, but we complement each other so well that it absolutely works. His strengths are things that I lean on and lean into and actively look to him to help me with. And my strengths are the same for him. Um, he he had some significant things that he was working through with drinking when, shortly after we met. And I told him, I said, I personally just can't go through that journey. It was very early on in our dating. And I said, if you want to make this change for you, and this is something you really want to get a handle on, I will help you and support you through that. But I just can't go on a journey with you because I know how that all ends, right?
Yeah.
So he really was very open to, because I at this point, was so deep in the personal development and transformation.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I really was able to help him through that. And he's almost 3 years sober, which is incredible. So proud of him. Yep. So proud of him. So that's what it's been. It's been a really healthy
Mhm.
relationship and one that, in my prior relationships, I was absolutely in my masculine
Ah,
energy. And this is the first relationship that I know that I have fully leaned into my feminine energy because I trust him on every level, which allowed me to do that. And it has been lovely. Like because as an entrepreneur and as a coach, like you're in your masculine energy with that all day. And you have to be, right? You're the only one driving results forward and you have to be, focused and disciplined. and all of those things. So to be able to just be softer and gentler and more nurturing in my relationship has been really lovely.
That's incredible. He seems like a really, really good guy.
He's a good guy. He's great for me. Like he's exactly the type of person that I needed that again, I always say to the universe, you know more than I do. So I'm not standing in your way. Whatever you say.
Has a lot that you were understanding enough, right, to really see him through this decision. And what I loved is that you didn't push it on, you didn't give an ultimatum, which tends to happen a lot in relationships when you're trying to inspire change, but you actually did set expectation, which is so essential, which I believe may not have been the case had you not done the work on yourself,
Oh,
right?
absolutely not. I would have just
Assertive in that.
gone along for the ride, right? Like with no boundaries, no standards. And this time it was like,
Humans tend to do that a lot, right? And so
oh, we take so, yeah, I mean, yes, like it's when we don't feel like we're worthy and
mm,
enough, we will accept,
the
like
big
I always say, breadcrumbs, right? We will accept a lot less than we deserve.
right.
And I think what I was a, I think what I was able to see was, not red flags, but a yellow flag. Like I saw him in his goodness and he was at his, in his heart, a good, caring person that I knew would show up for me and be there for me and be there for my kids. And that's so important to me. Dating when you have kids, like you want somebody who, wants to have a life that involves, your children who are the most important things. So I saw what many people would have seen as a red flag and peace out. I saw a yellow flag and I saw his potential and that he wanted to change. Like that was the key. Like, he really came to the table and wanted to change. And so I was there for that. And I'm so glad that I didn't let that just be a showstopper. But again, these are all individual situations. There's many times that we need to pay attention to the red flags and that's it, right?
Right, right. But not
Um,
make it the whole decision for you, right? Not to dismiss things right away. Because I see a lot of those who are really honing in on all the wrong stuff. It's instead of looking at the red flags, look at the green flags, look at the yellow flags, right? Because sometimes you might go out with someone and they just rub you the wrong way, but they didn't mean to. It's because they were nervous or something happened or they misspoke. I mean, it happened to me many, many times where I'm like, yeah, I just didn't feel that spark. I just didn't have that. But what I have found to be true was that give them a second chance, like give them a do-over and then decide for yourself, right?
right.
Was that the case for you while you put yourself out there before you found your one?
Before I found my one. Yeah, I think I was pretty dismissive of, I think at that time I had a really detailed list of all the things that, someone could or couldn't be. And, that's difficult to hold somebody else to.
Sure, too. Mhm.
Um, so then I kind of regrouped and I said, okay, what are just the four things that are most important to me? And really did a lot of work on my core values because I think that's the best indication if a relationship is going to work and be healthy. If you're aligned on your value system, you're aligned, right? Not to say there's not going to be challenges and struggles because there absolutely will be. But if you're if you're at your core on the same page, that's going to go a long way. And so I had a very short list and I met some people that, fell into that, but then there just wasn't the connection.
Mhm.
Um, but I was getting closer. And I think that's what dating is. It's a lot of data that we're taking in, right? We're testing things out. Like, is this really what I want? And then you get a little bit
Prospect,
closer, right?
like you go out there, you're trying them on. You are, how do they fit into my life? How do they fit
Right.
into my lifestyle? How do they fit with my value systems and all of those things? And
And
so,
how do I fit into theirs, right? It's a
exactly,
two-way street for
exactly,
sure. But
absolutely.
yeah, I was just taking in data and each experience gave me a little bit more of an understanding. And so then when I met my fiance, I had a pretty clear view of that and he demonstrated those values very quickly. And so I knew that this was something that had potential for longevity.
Awesome. Would you share those four things that were on your list?
Yes. So my value system is uh, growth. So you have to be willing to have a growth mindset and, just be open to, continuing to work on ourselves because this is it's a marathon, not a sprint, and it never stops when you start doing the, personal development work. I mean, it's continuous, right?
Absolutely.
Um, Balance is important to me. It's a very important core value of mine. I have been out of balance in my life. Um, in my, previous work experience, my go-to was just to work, and really became a workaholic in a lot of senses. Because that allowed me not to deal with, the relationship issues that I had in front of me. So, you know what? I'll just go work and then I know I can be successful there and that will fill my bucket. So balance with other, others is important. Like I need myself to be balanced and I need the people that are in my life to be balanced as well. Authenticity, like you
Mm,
had to be real.
big one.
A big one. I know it is for you. I know we connect on that point. Absolutely. And that's you have to be yourself. Like, I mean, if you can show up and be like your truest self with someone else and they love who that version is, you're golden. Like that's,
No
no
mask.
putting on, no
Yeah.
mask, like no putting on. I mean, I think the funnest times we have is when we're just being our silly, goofy, weird selves. To know that you can be that way, how you really feel like you are in your heart with another person and they like love that about you is so important.
That is,
So authenticity,
yeah.
yes, authenticity is everything. And freedom is my other core value. And so I think as I look at a relationship, it was really important that we each still had our own lives. Like I'm not selling myself out and, dismissing my entire life just for a relationship
Hmm.
anymore.
Hmm.
And I don't want them to do that. And so we very much have our own separate lives. That we enjoy and we enjoy the life we have together. But I think something that, is important to talk about in relationships is if we put all of our eggs into one person's basket and we expect that person to meet all of our needs across all the different needs that we have,
That is,
like that's too much to ask of one person.
it's not fair.
And so,
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. So I get a lot of my needs met through different ways, like through friends like you and through you know, things I do with my children and through, other activities I'm involved in. And, that's important. It's important to understand, like, yes, this person is center and core to your life. They don't, everything is not on them. Like when,
It
every,
shouldn't be. It shouldn't be,
no.
right? This is where that disconnect. See, I misspoke. Disconnect happens, right? When
Mhm.
you're asking so much of your partner, and I hear this time and time again, they're not meeting my needs and this and that. And it's like, what needs do you have, and how often do they need to be met for you? Because I feel that we're all responsible for our own happiness, for our own fulfillment, and that our partners are there to just add or amplify that.
That's a perfect way of putting it. You are who you're going to be, and you
Exactly.
have to be able to meet your own needs first. But
Mhm.
if you have somebody else that can come in and just like you said, kind of enhance all of that, that's icing on the cake, right?
Oh,
That's
absolutely. Because you don't rely on them to be happy. You don't rely on them to be joyful, and you also don't put the pressure on them, right, to comply with all of these things that you need to not feel empty.
Right. That's just
That's
not, that's
then,
just too much to ask. And it's also the reason why you can end a relationship with somebody and not, you're going to feel sad, right? Because that is actually grief.
yeah,
Anytime we have an attachment and form a loving bond with a person, a pet, a thing, and we don't have that anymore, we lose that, we're going to have grief. So an ending of a relationship is going to cause you to have grief because,
it's a loss.
you know, it's a loss. But if you are able to love yourself first, that loss is going to feel very differently than if you think that your happiness just walked away with that relationship. Then of course you're going to have this complete sense of emptiness and void, and you're going to struggle and you're going to suffer because you just think it's gone forever. Well, it's always been within you. And when you can tap into that and find that, then you can simply say, you know what? I have so much love and respect for you, but we're just not aligned, or whatever is causing, maybe that feeling. And you can let that person go and not
You
not
can
feel, and
detach.
trust me,
Yeah,
I've been on both ends of that, and it's very different experience.
it really is. It really is. Same for me. When you have that sense of, I am my own joy, I'm my own happiness, I am my own fulfillment, then even if there is a breakup or things don't work out, you're not heartbroken as much. You still mourn, you still have that loss, but you can detach with love, right? You can say, hey, we're just not on the same path right now, and that's okay. I wish you the best, I love you,
Right,
but obviously we're not walking in the same direction, and that's what I want, right? But that's what I want to grow in life. And so, yeah, to your point, is really, dealing with that sense of loss in that way of not being attached. I talk a lot about the art of detaching, you know, um, and it is hard, but you can get there eventually, with some work. So before I go to our last question, because we can do this for hours. Um,
right.
I know that you wanted to share a gift. So I'm just going to let you share that before we jump into the next question or the last question.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a grief and loss coach, um, I've gotten certified as a grief educator, but I'm also certified as a rapid transformational therapy practitioner, which is a lot of words to say. I utilize hypnosis in my coaching as well. And it's such an effective modality to help us kind of untie the knots that we've gotten into, because that's what's happened over the years. Like, most of our belief systems were developed by the time we're 7, which is shocking because no 7-year-old is out there really, trying to logically rationalize experiences and understand why things happened and make a logical conclusion. I mean, you know, we're just out there playing and being kids and absorbing everything. So we absorbed a lot of other people's beliefs and those became our own. And so as adults, I think the journey is to go back and revisit and untie any of those knots and any of those experiences where we formed a meaning and associated a meaning to it that really didn't represent
So much value.
what's true to us. So I utilize hypnosis a lot in my coaching with not just grief and loss, with lots of different topics. And so I created one about integrating grief and loss into your life, and it's a free hypnosis that you can download. So for anybody who, is just experiencing the grief from a loss, or, perhaps a breakup, just remember that there's a lot of losses that go way beyond death. And as a society, we're not great at allowing people to grieve death. And so we certainly haven't come very far to recognize the abundance of losses there are and allowing people to actually lean into that and it's valid and it's real, and to process those losses as well. So I think for your audience, it's very applicable. Because grief and loss, no one escapes it. It's a universal experience, and we are all going to go through it over and over and over again. So the sooner that we get better at this, the sooner we get better at processing it, allowing it, talking about it, supporting it, the better we're all going to be.
Mhm. Absolutely. So would that be a session? Is that
It's a download. So it's a recording that you listen to. And I love to listen to it right before I go to sleep. And it just puts you into a very calm, relaxed state. It lets your conscious thinking brain just take a break. We have so many thoughts every day that, this just allows your conscious thinking brain to take a break, and it allows your subconscious to come to the table. And that's the part of our mind that we want to be in touch with when we are trying to implement change. We can do it the hard way and try to, do it through a bunch of willpower and motivation. But, that's why New Year's resolutions don't work. You have to get into your subconscious mind and rewire the patterns and the thought processes. And your mind is always wanting to do, it's trying to take the instructions from you all the time. So that's its purpose. It will do whatever you want it to. We have to feed it the right instructions to align with the life that we desire.
Oh, sounds like an incredible gift. Thank you so much. And
Of
where
course.
can they connect with you if they want to connect with you?
So my website is www.atmology, atmalogy.net. And etymology means the study of one's true self. So that was a very intentional name because this journey is all about discovering ourselves. I
Mhm.
think that's the whole point of this, why we're here. And it's never too late. We're not stuck in, any kind of circumstance for the rest of our lives. Every day we do have opportunities to change. And there's some work involved, right? This isn't just you snap your fingers and all of a sudden
Oh, yeah.
every, desire you ever had is
Gotta
in your
do the work.
reality.
Gotta do the work.
You have to do the work. There's no escaping that. But the work is not as hard as people think.
Yeah.
There's
If you
complexities to
find the
it because it's
steps, right?
if
If you
you have the steps, that's right. Like I didn't have a roadmap, so I was trying to, figure it all out and build it as I went.
Mhm.
But it, people say all the time that I work with, they're like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a lot harder. I thought it was going to be more difficult, more emotional. And it's actually a liberation and a releasing of emotions and things that you've had stored for so long. I mean, I have so many people that lose weight, they get new jobs, they form new friendships, they get new relationships because we hold on to all of this stuff for so long. And when you release it, you're clearing space to allow what you really want to come in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, energetically, you're kind of tied into whatever was happening prior, right? And with
Mhm.
help, you get to kind of untie those knots.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I mean, great like careers and weight loss and whatnot,
Mhm.
all of that stuff, because
Yeah.
we don't
It's
realize how much stuff we actually hold on to as adults because we're so used to just powering through life,
pushing through,
pushing through,
keep
right?
trucking, right?
It's
Keep
okay.
going.
It's okay. And I'm gonna say this right now. It's okay to just let your hair down. It's okay to rest. It's okay to get help. And even if those around you don't understand, just give yourself the opportunity to at least try. I'm glad I
Yes.
did. I'm sure Karen, you can say the same because we both were in the whole corporate world, right? And
Mhm.
we both tend to kind of see life from the same perspective in a way of, it all starts with you. And so by you untying these knots is actually going to help you see the world in a completely different light. And so,
Yeah, you won't recognize yourself
oh,
once you go
absolutely
through
not. I
this
mean,
work, right?
for me, I wouldn't be here if that hasn't happened, right?
Same.
It's those
Yeah.
hard times that get you to this point, that point of
Yes.
self-discovery.
Yep.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, my last question for you would be, what unconventional advice would you give someone who is anxious that they will never meet the love of their life or meet love again, meet someone to fall in love again.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's what we've talked about. It's, stop looking externally for somebody to meet, every expectation that you have. And if you work on yourself first, you will attract the person that you really want. But the person that you really want has to be you first. It
Mhm.
has to. That's just the way our universe works. If you don't do the work and you're trying to attract your dream relationship, you may attract them, but chances are it's not going to be lasting because it's a mismatch. So take a pause. There is no, like, I took 2 years out of the dating game to work on myself. Best 2 years. I spent, and it took me a lot longer because again, I didn't have a coach or somebody to walk through this journey with, but it will be the best investment in time that you've spent is to, really get clear on who you are, do the work, figure out what your values are, understand why you're here, what are your unique superpowers, and then go forward and watch how quickly the person that you really have been dreaming of attracting shows up in your life.
Incredible. Absolutely. Write a list of what it is you want and then become it, right?
The easiest way to attract what you want. It's just that's not how we were brought up and taught. And so it's a relearning. And I say all the time, I don't think it's time that heals. I think it's learning and what you do with your time that makes the difference.
Right, absolutely. And one of the things that I want to share is that you doing the work for you is not selfish.
Oh no, it's
It's
essential.
a necessity.
Essential.
It is a
Yeah.
necessity for you to be able to show up in the world as the best you, as well as to become a best partner in your next relationship. Karen, it's been such a pleasure. I know we can
It's so
talk for
fun.
hours.
I know. We could.
But I did want to thank you for your time, and I'm sure we're going to meet again. We're going to talk next time about something incredible that is going to happen for you because you're going to be walking down the aisle soon.
Soon, yes. I'm in charge of planning and yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen, but we're enjoying the, engaged stage. So we're good.
Absolutely. Something to get excited about.
Yeah.
Well, have a wonderful day. And thank you
Thank
all for
you.
listening in. I will see you guys on the flip side.